Thanks, everyone. This is my first time at a Packin conference, and it's really fun so far. And it's been really interesting. I've run into people that I know from all around the world that I've worked with at different time periods during different installation jobs. I had no idea that we would all be connected here. It's really exciting. So I am going to talk about the problems that I've been trying to solve in my position now at the Natural History Museum. And it seems to me like it's kind of a slightly different topic than where we've been going all morning. So I hope that maybe there will be some of you who this is relevant to. And if not, bear with me. It's kind of some of the things that we're dealing with at a Natural History Museum. So first I'm going to kind of give you an introduction to me and to the Natural History Museum so that you kind of have an idea of the type of place that I am talking about. And then in the second half, I'll talk about the steps that I've tried to take to overcome some of these problems and how I've failed at some of them. I hope I have some successes. So I'm at the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County, and just to give you an idea of the size that we are, there's over 108,000 square feet of upgraded and restored galleries. We were established in 1913, and we have approximately 1 million visitors annually. And then a little about me. I'm the supervisor in exhibits and technical. So I oversee a team of exhibition technicians. And it's interesting, we've talked about the terminology a little bit here so far, but our team of preparators is called technicians, and they do some of the museum preparation, like art preparation, but they also do a lot of exhibition maintenance. And that could be on AV equipment, it could be on mechanical interactives, it could be on electronic interactives, so they have to have a skill set that kind of covers a lot of different things. I started at NHM in 2014, so I've been there for about 2.5 years. That's how long I've been working on the problems that I'm going to share with you. And I also work with a co-supervisor who oversees the media and lighting team, and he supervises 3 technicians. So together we have 8 technicians who take care of this whole building. So the things that we take care of 17 different galleries. Because it's a natural history museum, there's all kinds of collections. So there's paleontology collections, history collections, anthropology, ornithology. I like to say we have dead bug collections and live bug collections because we also have live animals. We have 22 video projectors, 40 touchscreens, 40 video displays, and a lot more. A lot of mechanical interactives, electronic interactives. And then we also take care of the exhibition lighting, not the building lighting, but the exhibition lighting. I'm gonna kind of quickly go through a lot of the exhibits that we have. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but just to give you some visuals. And the main point that I'm trying to make here is showing you as we go through that we have a lot of different ages of exhibits. So I'm starting with the newest. We have some that are 3 to 4 years old, and I'm going to get all the way down to some that are getting close to 100 years old. Not quite, but close. So we have some exhibits that are 3 to 4 years old that have just been designed and installed recently. One of those is the Nature Lab. The Nature Lab is a relatively new gallery that it has a lot of hands-on areas for children. It has a lot of live animals, and it's kind of making a link between urban areas and nature since we're in the city of LA. Here's a picture of one of my exhibition technicians doing one of the pieces of maintenance work that we have to do. So she is painting one of the touchable turtle shells, just typical of the kind of work that we constantly have to do in a place where things are always getting touched by children. Another constant is redoing labels, because labels are constantly being touched by kids and adults. And we're always having to go through and check on the condition of all of the labels and redo them. Here is the nature lab at use. You can see there's just kids all over the place touching everything, which is kind of like a museum director's dream and then like an exhibition technician's nightmare. Like, you just don't want them to touch anything because it means you're gonna have to fix it. but it's a lot of fun. So here's a picture of our exhibition technicians kind of needing to remove pieces from the gallery. Some of them have collections inside of them, but so there is our taxidermist who needs to be around whenever we remove any specimen that has taxidermy inside of it. And one of our exhibition technicians who is taking something apart so that it can be repaired on the inside. And here's one of our technicians working with our live animals crew on the inside of a live animals case. Another fairly new exhibit hall is the Otis Booth Pavilion, which was installed during our 100-year anniversary. It kind of created a new entrance for us. It also created a vertical and horizontal LED wall for showing films to the outside. And that's another piece that we maintain, this LED wall that's in constant play. So here's another one of our projects. It is the server room for the LED wall. And when we received the LED wall from the contractors, the server room looked like this. And when our LED lines, go back one, these are all strips of LEDs. When they started failing, as you know, everything is going to fail at some point. And we tried to start testing our wiring. You can see it was completely inaccessible in our previous server room. All of the wires were butted up against each other and we couldn't access any of them. So this is kind of a typical project for our exhibit team, is working with contractors to design and then refurnish all of these servers so that they face outwards so that all of the cords are accessible. Another new gallery is the Becoming Los Angeles Gallery. I'm showing you this one because you can see kind of the large projections that we have. The different types of casework. This is casework that was designed by Glassbauhahn in Germany. And so we need to maintain spaces like this. We are constantly working in scissor lifts to maintain the video projectors, change the bulbs, change the filters, and sometimes just try to troubleshoot and see why it's not working if we don't know. There are a lot of projections that are happening inside of casework when there are collections down below. So that type of maintenance work requires that we have a registrar and often a collection manager on site with us doing the work just so we can do work on the projectors. So those were the most recent ones, and I'll say those are the exhibits that we have the most well-documented information about. So we kind of know how to fix those. Then we start to get a little bit older. We get to 6 to 9 years old, and we sometimes have information about how to fix these ones. We have a dinosaur hall. And occasionally things happen, like this special facade material on our dinosaur platform just fell off one day. So like I said, sometimes we don't always have all the information we need. We did look through all of our source materials to try to find out what types of adhesive was used in the original build, and if it was safe to be around the specimens. Eventually we couldn't get all of the answers that we needed, and so we needed to devise a new method. So this is a jig that our technicians built to hold the adhesive in place when they glue the facade back on. This hall is filled with touchable video screens, things for kids to interact with, things for kids to walk on, things for kids to stick their hands in, doors for kids to open. And here's another picture of one of our technicians working on a mount with the paleontologists. So moving forward again, we still have exhibits that haven't been renovated in the museum, and those can be anywhere from 10 to 80 years old. So in these cases, we don't have any information left about how they were built, how to access the insides of them. In some cases, even what they were supposed to do. If, for instance, like we push a button and nothing happens, we might not even know anymore what was supposed to happen when you push that button, which is a little unfortunate. One example of that is the Bird Hall, which was built in 1991. And you can see it kind of has that aesthetic of being one of those older museum exhibits. We still have a marsh with actual water in it. I love this one because it looks so dated. But that's Percy the Pelican on the left, and kids still really love him. And he is an animatronic. He has a button. You push him, and he talks to you. But that's one of the items that my crew has to keep working. And they work on that one quite a lot. Here's an example of one of the pieces in the Bird Hall and kind of the type of investigative work that we had to do on this side. Two things went down. This piece went down and this went down. And we, usually we would have to kind of figure out how to pop this panel off the wall. It's not always really clear. We'd investigate it, and then we would change the bulbs inside. And maybe like the most difficult problem might be that we can't find where to order that type of bulb anymore. But in this case, the bulb was completely non-existent. We couldn't order that kind of bulb anymore. So we had to take out the ballast and put a new ballast in with an electrician. But when we tried to do that, we found that the access panel for where the ballast was had been sealed over from some previous renovation work. So first we had to cut a hole in the ceiling in order to get to the ballast. So it seems like a really small project. You just need to get the light back on, but it turned into this huge ordeal. And then this piece back here was one that we weren't exactly sure what it did when the light went out. Like no one could quite remember. So we had a guy who was really good at circuit boards who pulled this off the wall and found a really antique-looking circuit board and deduced that it was just an animated light that just kind of goes up and down, showing the flight of the bird. So he was able to rework that. And lastly, we have our Gem and Minerals Hall from the 1970s. Not as many interactives in this hall, which is interesting. The later that we go, of course, the less AV and media equipment we have, but we still have upkeep work to do in here. Sometimes the plexiglass gets brittle and starts breaking on the seams. And occasionally we need to figure out how to open a case that hasn't really been opened in a very long time and try to figure out sort of how they fit it up there when the ceiling's really close, sort of things like that. Then we also have 3 diorama halls, and these, I think, they're from the 1930s. They're just really beautiful how these sliding windows open up to provide access for when we need to maintain the inside of the diorama halls. So that's just the quick overview of the museum to give you an idea of the kinds of problems that my team is dealing with. So when I got here 2.5 years ago, I was put in charge of the exhibit technicians, and in charge of making sure that all of the halls were always maintained. So everything was always working perfectly. Because this is a conference that's about failure, I'm going to present this to you in a way that maybe I normally wouldn't. I would maybe normally just tell you a little bit more about the successes that I've had. But since we're talking about how do we get to success through failure, I'm going to tell you about the things that I tried. So the failures that we've been having at the museum are we've been having a lot of lost knowledge. As we lose people, lose exhibit technicians, lose the people who built the exhibitions, we haven't had a super great system for how do we collect all of that information about how the exhibit was built, how do you maintain it, how do you find, for instance, a movie file if the computer that it's on crashes. All of those things have been kept differently for each exhibit, and since we have 17 exhibit halls, it means that there's a lot of different ways that information has been stored, and for many of them, it's just been completely lost. We don't have the knowledge at all anymore. In addition to that, I also had the problem of just having these 8 technicians who were going around the museum trying to fix things, and I didn't always know what they were doing, what they were fixing, if they started and then stopped a project, or kind of how it was going. So there were all of these problems kind of building up, and we had so many various locations, all of these galleries around the museum, that I was trying to think of how we could collect all of this knowledge. And so I started with, well, first of all, like, how do we know how to fix things? And the thing that I found out is the first thing they do is they look in the wall of binders. So this is just like this is a space in our studio where we just have the binders that have been created for the newer exhibits. And when you have a problem, you go here and you search through all of the design work that all the designers did to see if you can find the answer for your problem. But a lot of times the answer isn't there. So our next one has been that we ask someone who's been there for a very, very long time. So that would be like our taxidermist, because he's been working with us forever. And sometimes he doesn't know, and then we're really in trouble. So then we just have to figure it out. So the other issue that we had is, how are we going to keep track of all these maintenance projects? And first we tried just assigning one person to each of the 17 galleries. But their skills are so varied on our team that sometimes they couldn't handle the gallery. It was creating so many problems. So with these 2 problems in mind, when I got there, our director asked me if I could re-envision museum maintenance. And that's when I came up with my first brilliant idea, which totally failed. But I gave this presentation, re-envisioning museum maintenance, which I know sounds so boring. But my idea was that we would take the floor plan, and this is I found this. This is the actual drawing that I gave to my director to be like, I thought of this great idea. We would take the floor plan, we would create an app that would go onto a tablet, as you can see there. And the exhibit techs could walk through the museum, and every time they found a problem, they could touch the floor plan on the tablet, and it would begin asking them questions. What's wrong with this thing? And they would go through the series of questions, and it would collect all of this data. They would create task lists, and then I could organize the information amongst my crew, give them assignments, and they could go and repair it. So my director thought that was a really cool idea. And he gave me $10,000 and said, yes, you should go and get this app built. And I was really excited, and I was also kind of frightened because I made that idea up, but I actually had no idea of how to do it. And so I started calling people that I knew and reaching out to people on Facebook. And they suggested that I start just contacting developers and tell them my idea and write up a proposal. They showed me how to write an app proposal and who to reach out to. And what I found out next is that no developer would touch this for $10,000. And all of the developers that I talked to said that they would need like a minimum of $60,000 to $80,000 to do this project, and that it was way too big and complex. and that if I found someone to do it for $10,000, it would have way too many bugs, and that person would not be around when I needed to upgrade and when I needed to fix it. So I was a little bit stymied, but during all of those phone calls, I did hear that there are already some apps that are developed that do some very similar things to what I was envisioning, minus the really cool part of having our floor plan and being able to touch of exactly where you are. And so I found out about these two different things that are already market products. One of them is pretty much known as a help desk app, and one is known as a facility maintenance app. So I investigated both of these and ended up choosing for the first go around. Again, remember, this is all about failure. So the first one I chose was the Help Desk app. This is an application that is invented, as far as I can tell, pretty much for call-in centers. Like if you have a company that is selling a product like clothing and people are calling in to offer complaints, then you'll have people sitting at the computer typing in their complaints. A help desk app has a completely blank back end, so you can input whatever information you want. So you could be any kind of company. You could be a shoe company, or you could be a jeans company, or whatever, and create all of your own subtitles for all the categories that you want to be tracking of the problems that are coming in. The reason that I chose the Help Desk app is because it had a really beautiful format. It looked really pretty, and it made really pretty pie charts. So you could track all of your data, whatever you put in the back end, which is totally up to you. So we used it slightly off function. Instead of tracking the problems that people on the phone were calling in to say, we input all of our gallery information, created checklists. So we had all of the names of our galleries in the app, and then all of the items that we wanted to track were in the app. And then our technicians would go find out what the problems were, and then they could come to the Help Desk app and enter. They would create what was called a ticket, where they could just check off, this is the gallery that I was in, this is the area I was in, here's the problem that I saw. And they could create a ticket. Now, the reason that that's really helpful for us is because then we had stored all of the knowledge that we were learning. We were finding out all of the things that were breaking. We could track them. Anytime someone asked us what we were working on, we could pull up this information in any way we wanted. We can sort it. Basically, it creates Excel documents. So you can sort it any way you would sort an Excel sheet if you want to see everything that's done on one day, if you want to see everything that's done in one gallery, or everything that's done to your video projectors. Ultimately, Happy Fox was the Help Desk app that I used, and I think I also chose it just because the name is so great. We used it for a year, and then we ended up outgrowing it because of how we were kind of using it off-label in a way, and we decided to switch over to a facility maintenance app. It has the same basic usage idea in that it has a completely blank back end. But with Facility Dude, it wasn't as pretty, and that still kind of matters to me, but I had to give that up. But it gave us some more specific tracking abilities, and some of those are we can link to inventory now, so we can track all of the supplies in our supply closet. All of our expendables, like our light bulbs, our gloves, our plexi cleaner, etc. There's a whole inventory side of it, so you can list all of that, and then as you use it on a project, you input that into the app. Let's say I used this much supply on this project, and it will subtract it from your inventory. Also, it had Facility Dude has equipment tracker pages, so you can input all of your equipment, give it a page, give it a number, and then you can track all of your equipment costs for that piece of equipment. So if you have to repair something on that equipment, the cost will automatically be added to the equipment page. So there are so many ways that you can kind of track data, and the idea is because the back end is blank, you can choose what is the data that you want to be tracking. And I realized when I was watching everyone else's presentation that this might be a group that really appreciates data and graphs. And I probably should have put in some of the graphs that it can create so that I can show you, but you'll just have to look up the product on your own if you're really that interested in it. I didn't want to be too much of a commercial for Happy Fox and Facility Dude. I just wanted to kind of let you know that that's what I tried to go to when I was trying to solve this problem of how quickly we're losing information. The main way that Facility Dude helps us stop from losing information is that every single ticket is saved forever. So even if we leave using the Facility Dude application, we can still print out all of our tickets, and all of our projects that we've worked on are saved. As our technicians create their tickets, they write down all of the information of how they're solving the project. So it might be something as small as what material they're using, what adhesive they're using on the project. It might be what's the screw size, what tools you should bring with you next time you do it. So every time we go to redo a project, we just pull up the ticket that we created last time we did this project, and we have all of the information saved there. So it's kind of, in a way, creating an instruction manual for us as we move forward, since we didn't have one from starting. So since this is about learning through failing, I wanted to point out that our solutions are still evolving. We are really happy with using Facility Dude right now, but there are still lots of things that are falling through the cracks because of it. And so we kind of work with a low-tech plus a high-tech solution for now, for kind of trying to keep track of everything. And this is my example of these are like the two things that we use most to try to solve this problem of not knowing what's going on, not knowing when it's happening, and saving our knowledge. And one of them is the walkthroughs, just how this means the walkthrough of the museum to see where the problems are. How do we know that people are checking on things? How do we know that there's not something broken in the museum? That's because our technicians are constantly walking through, and the only way that I could figure out to know that that's happening is by creating a whiteboard, and people just have to initial every single day. They sign their initials that they checked that gallery. And then on the right is kind of a snapshot of the Facility Dude interface. So you can kind of see what I can see when I log in, how many new requests there are, how many works in progress, how many are completed. And we're using these things along with a few others, like creating our own wiki where we try to input the same information so that we'll have all of our projects stored by gallery, and creating redundant places of storage in order to try to not have the same problems over and over again. That's all. Thank you.